the most abundant type of bacteria in your body. Right now, as you're watching this video, you're outnumbered. In fact, you've always been outnumbered. For every single human cell in your body, there's roughly one bacterial cell keeping it company. That's trillions upon trillions of microscopic organisms living on and inside you. But here's what's fascinating. One type of bacteria absolutely dominates this invisible ecosystem. And chances are you've never heard of it. The most abundant bacteria in your body isn't living on your skin, despite the fact that your skin harbors thousands of different species. It's not in your mouth, even though you swallow roughly 1 trillion bacteria every single day with your saliva. The answer lies deeper in the dark, oxygen-deprived corridors of your large intestine. And the champion of this microscopic world is a bacterium called Bacteroides. Bacteroides species make up somewhere between 25 to 50% of all the bacteria in your gut. To put that in perspective, there are roughly 40 trillion bacterial cells in your body, with the vast majority residing in your colon. That means Bacteroides alone could account for 10 to 20 trillion cells, a number so large it's almost meaningless. So let's try this instead. If you were to weigh all the bacteria in your gut, Bacteroides would make up about half a pound to a full pound of that mass. These bacteria are what we call obligate anaerobes, which means they absolutely cannot survive in the presence of oxygen. For them, oxygen is toxic, even lethal. They've evolved to thrive in the low oxygen environment of your large intestine, where they form dense communities along the intestinal walls and float freely in the intestinal contents. But Bacteroides aren't just passive residents. They're working for you constantly. Their primary job is something your own body simply cannot do: break down complex carbohydrates. Think about the last time you ate vegetables, whole grains, or legumes. Your small intestine absorbed the simple sugars and nutrients it could handle, but much of the fiber and complex plant material passed right through. That's because humans don't produce the enzymes necessary to break down many of these compounds. This is where Bacteroides becomes essential. These bacteria possess a remarkable genetic toolkit. They have genes encoding hundreds of different enzymes, specifically designed to dismantle complex polysaccharides. They can break down everything from the cellulose in vegetables to the unique carbohydrates found in seaweed. When they do this, they produce short-chain fatty acids as byproducts, particularly acetate and propionate. Your colon cells absorb these fatty acids and use them as an energy source. In fact, these bacterial byproducts provide roughly 10% of your daily caloric intake. But the relationship goes deeper. Bacteroides help train your immune system, teaching it to distinguish between helpful bacteria and dangerous pathogens. They compete with harmful bacteria for space and resources, essentially acting as a living barrier against infection. Some species even produce specific compounds that strengthen the mucus layer protecting your intestinal walls. Now, when we talk about Bacteroides, we're actually talking about an entire genus containing dozens of species. The most common one you'll find in a typical human gut is Bacteroides fragilis, followed closely by Bacteroides thetiatomicron and Bacteroides vulgatus. Each species has its own specialties and preferences. Bacteroides thetiatomicron, for example, is particularly good at adapting to different diets. Scientists have studied this species extensively because it can rapidly change which genes it expresses based on what you eat. Feed it lots of plant fiber, and it activates genes for plant-degrading enzymes. Switch to a different diet, and it adjusts accordingly within hours. Bacteroides fragilis has earned attention for different reasons. Despite being generally beneficial, it has a darker side. It's one of the few Bacteroid species that can occasionally cause infections if it escapes the gut and enters other parts of the body. Yet in its proper place, it's a powerful ally, producing molecules that actually help prevent inflammatory diseases. Your diet directly shapes the abundance and diversity of Bacteroides in your gut. Studies comparing people from different cultures have revealed striking patterns. Individuals who consume traditional Western diets, high in processed foods and low in fiber, tend to have different Bacteroides populations compared to people eating traditional plant-rich diets. Research on children in rural Africa versus children in Europe showed dramatic differences. The African children, eating primarily plant-based diets rich in fiber, had gut bacteria dominated by Bacteroides species, specialized in breaking down plant material. The European children, eating more processed foods with animal proteins and simple carbohydrates, showed less diverse Bacteroides populations with different metabolic capabilities. When you eat more fiber, you're essentially feeding your Bacteroides. They thrive, multiply, and produce more of those beneficial short-chain fatty acids. Cut fiber from your diet, and these populations can shrink, potentially allowing other less beneficial bacteria to take their place. The importance of Bacteroides extends into unexpected areas of health. Recent research has connected these bacteria to weight regulation, with some studies suggesting that people with obesity have different ratios of Bacteroides compared to lean individuals. The mechanism isn't fully understood, but it likely involves how efficiently these bacteria extract energy from food. There's also emerging evidence linking Bacteroides populations to mental health through the gut-brain axis. These bacteria produce neurotransmitter precursors and other signaling molecules that can influence brain function and mood. Some researchers are investigating whether changes in Bacteroides abundance might play a role in conditions like anxiety and depression. Scientists have even found that Bacteroides might influence how well certain medications work, including drugs for cancer treatment. Some species can metabolize specific medications, either activating them or breaking them down before they can have their intended effect. Despite their dominance, Bacteroides aren't invincible. Antibiotics can devastate these populations, sometimes for months after treatment ends. This disruption can have cascading effects on your entire gut ecosystem, potentially allowing harmful bacteria like Clostridioides difficult to flourish in the void. Age also matters. Babies are born with sterile guts, but within days, bacteria begin colonizing. Bacteroides typically appear within the first year of life, and their populations gradually stabilize by age 3. At the other end of life, elderly individuals often show reduced diversity in their Bacteroides populations, which some researchers believe may contribute to age-related health issues. So there you have it. Bacteroides, the unsung champion of your internal ecosystem. Half a pound of microscopic workers, breaking down the food you can't digest, producing energy you can use, training your immune system, and guarding against infection. They've been with humanity throughout our entire evolution, adapting alongside us, shaping our health in ways we're only beginning to understand. The next time you eat a salad or some whole grains, remember, you're not just feeding yourself, you're feeding trillions of tiny allies who've made your gut their home. And they're working around the clock to keep you healthy. Which bacteria fact surprised you the most? That bacteria outnumber your own cells or that they shape your mind and health? Tell us in the comments section and subscribe to the channel, The Extremes of Reality, for more journeys into the rare, the common, and the abundant.